everybody, today I'm going to be making my version of stroganoff. For that you're going to need about 1.5 pounds of 80-20 ground meat, or use whatever kind you want. You're going to need 1/3 cup of minced dried onion, 2 tablespoons of butter, an 8-ounce can of rinsed and drained mushrooms, a 16-ounce container of sour cream, 1/3 cup of flour. Now your broth, you're going to need 2 cans of beef broth, or you're going to need, like I'm going to use this bouillon here. I use this in all my soups and everything. 1 teaspoon equals 1 can of broth. So I use 2 teaspoons to get my 16 ounce of broth. Then you're going to need any kind of noodles you want. I'm using penne, whole grain. And you're going to need about 1/4 cup of ketchup, but I might use more. And 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. Okay, so you start frying your ground meat up and you start boiling your water for your noodles. Okay, so while my ground meat is frying and my water is boiling, and then after I rinsed and drained my mushrooms, I'm going to give them a coarsely chopping, because look at how big that mushroom is. I don't want that in my stroganoff, so I'm just going to cut them like into 3s. Okay, so when your ground meat is brown, you take it over to your sink and you drain it and you rinse it. Okay, so after you drain and rinse your ground meat, you get a Scott towel and you wipe all that extra grease out of your pan, and then you add your butter into your pan and you leave that melt. Okay, so when that's melted mostly all the way, then you get your mushrooms and you put your mushrooms in and you fry them up. Okay, so after frying your mushrooms for about 5 minutes, you take them off and put them to the side. Then you put your stove on about 4, 3, something like that. Then you add your broth, all of it, except for about 2/3 cup or so. Just eyeball it. Then you add your minced onion, garlic powder, and your ketchup. And you give that a good mix in. Okay, so while that's simmering on the stove, you get your flour and your remaining broth, and I use a little strainer, and I'll put my flour over the strainer and sift it into the flour, and then I'll whisk it to make like kind of like a roux, I guess you would call it. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's done. That's the consistency it is. Okay, so now we'll add our roux, or whatever it's called, into this mixture here. And we'll mix this all up. Now when that's all mixed up, we'll start adding our sour cream. Okay, after your sour cream is all mixed in, it should be starting to thicken up, like such. Then you start adding your mushrooms in and mix them really good. And then last but not least, you add your ground meat and you mix that really well. Okay, so after you give it a good mix in, you taste it and you decide if you need salt or pepper. If not, you plate it up with your noodles, and I hope y'all enjoy.